as a fern. Oh.
Closer?
Yeah, I like to really donkey lip it. You're gonna hate me. Can you hand me my fanny pack?
I get it.
Thanks, Mom.
Donkey lip it. New term. That's in the Audio Engineers 101. Would you mind donkey lipping the mic, please?
I say that. That's a me and Clay thing.
Check, donkey one, check.
Check, donkey lip.
Donkey lips.
Lips of a donkey. Can you scoot this light back just like an inch? Yeah, just because it.
Ch. There he is.
I take full responsibility. All right. No, I understand. Don't you have somewhere to be?
You don't have to be in this room, right?
What?
I was saying you don't have to be in the room with us, right?
Yeah, I do need an adapter. Quarter inch. I'm gonna be a pain in the ass. Yeah. I don't know. I still feel the guilt.
Yeah, kind of getting.
I was just. You just see my TikTok yesterday about the coffee. When I go through like a drive-through, I am so overwhelmingly polite and thankful and nice, and I have a smile like ready to go the whole time because I'm just terrified. Like I do not want them to get mad at me.
Yeah, please don't spit in my food.
I'm not going to be the one where you see him throwing the drink out the window. That ain't me.
Yeah, please don't spit in my milkshake.
I go so often.
Yeah.
You know, I'm terrible. Like, I'm not going to, because I have such a good memory. I assume, like, if I have a confrontation with somebody one time, I'm going to remember if I see them again.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you work at McDonald's, you're probably not like that because it happens so often.
Yeah. Certain personality type that stuff just rolls off their back, or they just don't. There's a medical term for it, like you just don't remember anybody's face, but there's probably a lot of people that don't.
Yeah, some people, we were talking about this with Dee Dee. I don't know if it was on the air or not, but some people don't have like an internal monologue.
Yeah.
Like some.
Yeah, right. Which is bizarre. That's the one person who talks to me the most.
Yeah, some people don't have anything happening.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I'm reliving things constantly in graphic detail.
Rumination.
And scanning constantly, which is, why I have
yeah.
Like, why do I turn everything into this? Where you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I have to sprawl myself out. Like, I always think about it like Dracula had to travel with dirt from home.
Yeah, right.
To sleep in. Mm-hmm. And that's how I am with my my gadgets and my nonsense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so it's like
like crazy people that have to bring their dog with them somewhere. You know what I mean? It's just
you gotta bring your nest with you.
I need my backup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for me, my backup is Diet Cokes and cameras today, and I got 2 laptops. You notice we're not using.
Right.
I'm glad I got. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 of them.
I mean, I've got 2 in my backpack at home too.
Yeah.
But one of them is just a power source for this little light that I have on my nightstand.
Oh, so, nice.
But I still have.
That's probably the most efficient way to power a light source in America.
I mean, that's the only way it's like it came with a USB.
Yeah.
It's either 3 AA batteries or this thing.
Apparently 9-volt batteries are real expensive now.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Batteries, period.
Really?
9 volts are stupid.
Yeah.
That's why I finally
It's because
bought a
we
power
pulled out of
source.
Afghanistan.
That's exactly why. 'Cause that's where they're all made.
That's where the lithium ions are, in the mountains of Afghanistan. That's true.
That's where the little square top, not the little round one, but one that you put your tongue to test, that's where they're all made. So
exactly. Guys, welcome back to Jacob V Weekly. We want to start like we do every week by reminding you to check out Caddyshack of New Hamel, Illinois, and it's actually just Hamel. That's caddyshackil.org. You can also find them on my website, jacobv.com. There's a tab that'll take you straight to them. Save a life or 9.
I want to see old Hamel.
Old Hamel. Well, I think that's kind of what Hamel is.
Yeah.
Because if you meet some of the people that live around Sarah and the Caddyshack, and I want maybe you and I should do this together because you know them. That I was thinking it'd be fun to do live from Caddyshack.
That would be awesome. I haven't been there in a few years. So,
and do on a nice day, shoot a couple different artists just outside, single song, and make it on a pretty day with the cats out there, acoustic stuff, gentle, cat friendly.
There seems to be a need always for her to generate funds. So if we were doing some cool little Zoom
series
purchase, and then
seriously, if we could do it. This is how efficient we could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Is 4 singer-songwriters in a van, go out to Caddyshack, 3 hours, set up, everyone shoots a song or 2 if we're clipping on the setup time, and then everyone gets back in the van, comes back home, and then we have a month of a weekly series of Live from Caddyshack.
Yeah, it's like a kitten drive, raise funds for...
Yeah, but that's also the thing too, is that I think we come from things were annual, or whatever, and
like Lo-Fi Cherokee,
and but also like before that, like the Grammys are once a year, like things that are like that. So when really she's saving cats every day, so like a sustained thing. I think that's like NPR's thing with Tiny Desk is like that brings so much more name recognition and funding to NPR than a lot, probably anything else they're doing now. And it's for a good reason. It's public radio. They they fundraise for, it's not like iHeartRadio or something like that.
The annual thing, I mean, that's 365 days in between this last time that we did this. Like how, but they've always got somehow fundraisers or donations and drive. I don't know.
And sometimes the need is greater. Like I did that trivia night with them, and almost all of that was for a specific batch of vet bills that had piled up. You know what I mean? She said, we're going to hit this number by this time, and everyone was very supportive. It was very successful and hit the goal and everything. But then also sometimes, we just need to make sure that the food budget is going to stay, and especially because when you're involved in really rescuing pets, like I can say Sarah and I are, because of that you get really paranoid and picky about the food you're going to give them, and if you really feel like you're saving them and trying to help them get healthy, you don't want to give them just the food you can get at Walgreens,
the cheapest stuff.
I spend so much time because the pet store closes and I'm out and about. I spend so much time in the pet aisle at Walgreens looking at the different foods, and I'm lucky if I can find one that is like, this is good enough for my Oswald. You know what I mean? My little guy is on Royal Canin hydrolyzed protein. $80 a bag after tax. I mean, I could get him. We do the Pro Plan, sensitive skin and stomach, and it's like equally as expensive. If
not, I got to do this for he eats better than I do, and he's got better medical insurance.
We say that on this show all the time, verbatim. I mean, they eat better than I do, and they're
more healthfully. I'll say. I mean, he eats kibble every meal.
It's like salmon and like I'm like, God, I would kill for some salmon,
dude. I'll have some salmon
if I could get salmon as easily as I could get not salmon. So we're back today because of there's more developing, and we knew immediately that we'd have to do another episode, but there's more developing in the project with what's the best way for people to find the name of what we're going to be talking about today?
I've been calling it the Sellout series, but it's They Called Me a Sellout.
Yeah.
So I think, the title's twice as long as that, the whole thing kind of synopsis, but
subtitle.
So subtitle. Thank you.
It's my job. It's my job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, They Called Me a Sellout. Search in YouTube, and that'll come right up. And there is a playlist there. It's in several of my playlists.
Yeah, and YouTube is the best place to stay connected for that stuff right now. But you're also promoting on TikTok and whatnot. Yes. And have you been making clips of the actual interviews for TikTok?
I have. Yeah. Okay. So I'll put them on TikTok first to get the captions and stuff. Because it's a eye-popping thing. Yeah. Go to Instagram and send them there. My story, my feeds, and then for whatever reason, I don't know who figured it out or whatever, but Facebook doesn't like YouTube links anymore, so you can't just post from YouTube, like share it and then go to Facebook. It just buries whatever video.
Well, and YouTube will do that the other way too. If I make a YouTube video that's all about go to this website, go to another thing that's not YouTube, they get mad. Especially now, because you can look. Sometimes I don't know what app I'm on. I'll be on, because here's the apps that do this: Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook on its own without Instagram, also TikTok, right? And there's another one. What's the other thing I post on? YouTube Shorts.
Okay, right.
That's it's really all the same product. Yeah, but they don't want you to leave theirs to go to the other one. Like Instagram started burying reels that look like they were just reposted from TikTok, like if it has the TikTok watermark on it or something. Like that's.
But they want us to connect all of these things. If
they want you.
But then I can't.
And it's so crazy. We could open my analytics right now, and the experience is totally different. Of the exact same clip posted on, like, say, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Those are the main ones, really.
Yeah.
That the life cycle is totally different. YouTube, the ceiling is way higher.
Yeah.
Because after your normal batch of followers and people that are likely to see your stuff anyway on TikTok, you kind of stagnate.
That's what I guess that explains why some of my shorts, like from a couple and several weeks ago, like have nearly 500 pure views, like YouTube views, because I'll send it, I'll put it in TikTok and create it, and then I'll just the one that's stored in my my images or my photos or whatever, and I'll just put that as a short on YouTube, and some of them have nearly 500 views, and then now lately they've there's one that still has 1 view.
Right. Well, that's the thing with shorts, because if it doesn't get caught up in where YouTube thinks, oh, we can use this for whatever reasons, I'll have shorts from 2 weeks ago that have no views.
Yeah.
Where then the short before it may have hundreds of views. Yeah. And it's a tough nut to crack, but also they say there's less people doing it on, and I'm applying this to X too, but there's less people making YouTube shorts out the gate, at least when this whole break off kind of started, this phase that we're in of these relationships between the platforms. And that, if you're cranking out YouTube shorts, it could be more viable at this time than, say, Instagram or TikTok, where people are more established in that exact medium. But then for this same reason, a lot of people are leaving YouTube or Instagram for TikTok.
Yeah.
Or, you see really big stuff getting broadcast on X. X is trying to establish itself as the next TV channel.
Yeah.
Or something.
They're all changing.
Yeah.
And then by the time you figure out what you think that they want you to do with them, they change something, and then...
Well, and it could totally change your business model in this case, because you and I are approaching this thing where, we're participating in things that have budgets that are supported by our community of whatever, that, so we have to think about these things like, long-term stuff, long-form stuff really just exists on YouTube. I'd love it if my full episodes were across all my platforms all the time, but I'd have to upload them all separately. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I don't know.
And we're fundraising.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
let's start with that before we get too deep in the weeds. I don't want to bury the lead here. Yeah. So people that want to support the series and the full length documentary that's coming, where should we send them? Because I'm gonna put it on the screen.
So that is there's a GoFundMe link, and that's in my Instagram bio. So Instagram is 3220 Productions, and then I guess my handle is still You People Music, but I just kind of changed it over to made it one thing and centralize.
Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're not.
Because now they're kind of making me do it because it's whatever.
Well, but also, because if your audience from You People Music is going to know about your new thing at all, the best thing to do is to grow it in a thing. I was watching.
Who was already there. Yeah.
I was watching the Adam Friedland Show podcast last night, and it just came up in my autoplay on YouTube because of something else I watched, I guess. And I guess his friend Nick Mullen lost his channel, and so he just does all of his stuff on Adam Friedland's channel. They do a lot of their stuff together, and they've like consolidated, like for that reason. Like I'm not going to build up a new channel,
right, exactly, yeah. And I started to. Made a 3220. Well, it was You People. Just a different one. I have a You People on Facebook, and then I had another one from a while ago that I never really finished. So I said, okay, well, I'll make that 3220 Productions, and I changed it, and then I didn't like the way I named. I forgot the hyphen. That doesn't matter. But so now I'm kind of getting hits on that. I don't really want them, but I can't change it for another probably 35, 40 days. Yeah. Because
it's so restrictive.
So it's just, there's hits getting sent over there that aren't going anywhere because I don't have any links or anything on it. So trying to just build from the followers that I already had.
Because YouTube doesn't want you to put the GoFundMe link in there?
No, that was Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I don't know, like YouTube seems to be, I'm getting lost in the quicksand and in the weeds, like before. Like, so what came to mind earlier was the Boom Room, Brian McClellan and Blip Blap Video.
Yes.
They had the Boom Room series, and I did an episode, and for whatever reason, it went viral AF. And there's like 106,000
There was a few things about that. The initial clip about that he made. Yeah. Just the cinematography of that and the point it was in the song and the production of the whole thing. It just jumped off the screen in a way that like, it was just
somehow.
It was, I
thought he maybe had purchased the views or whatever. Like, you can boost
I don't even know that he
would have.
I don't even know that he would have had to, especially when you look at what the algorithm likes. We're starting to study what the algorithm likes in the content itself, and it likes faces, and it likes teeth, and it likes, and just the way that was shot very dynamically, and there were different angles and things moving. It was just a good example of what that series kind of looked like, and
for whatever reason, I think,
and it was just you. So when it's a band, it starts to get confused with that same dynamic way of shooting with different points of view. I'm thinking about other ones of those I've seen where they look beautiful, but I can understand why maybe the algorithm isn't as excited because it's not as focused.
Well, it's funny. I had thought, not a lot about it, but so there were a couple people that came in and did their episodes that same day. Like I walked in and Natalie Huggins was doing hers.
Natalie Huggins.
Then Jazz, is it Tucker? Super Jazz. He came in while I was doing mine to shoot his. And so ours were released within, a week or two of one another, and everybody's got the same kind of headshot basically. So I was wondering, at a similar time, around the same time, there were some cultural strife, like there isn't any already, but there was some racial tension in the United States. And I was thinking, I was like, well, I mean, my black face on the thing kind of stood out because there was Clownvis and then me and Natalie Huggins and then a few other people, and
it just goes a long way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention the publication. There's a publication I was submitting some stuff to, and I went to their website, and it's a publication that I really value, and I'm glad they exist. But when I open their website and you see the vast number of things they're doing with different people or whatever, the first thing that came to my mind, and I said it out loud, was, "Oh, cool, 5 more white dudes."
Right.
And because it was groups of white dudes dressed like they work at Guitar Center, and you know, and whatever. And I'm sure they're talented. I'm sure they're hardworking.
Yeah.
But if you don't see any racial or gender diversity at all, it gets so easy to just totally forget about.
Gloss over.
I played with a band Saturday night where there was, you know, racial and age and gender diversity in a 5-person band in a way that was like, this is, and we talked about this. I grew up to value that because of Captain Planet, and like that's how all my shit looked in public school in the 90s. Yeah. And so when I see that, I'm like, thank God.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I'm totally okay if I'm the only one that looks like me in a group of people that I'm working with creatively in some way. Yeah. Just because I know that we're going to be pulling from different places and different things. So that's actually a good lineup. If you see a woman and Clownvis and you, that's, I mean, everybody
stood out somehow.
But also it felt, and I mean this as a friend and a fan, and in a nothing but a positive way. But that performance of that song on that show felt, it was giving like Black Power vibes, in a positive way, and it wasn't loud or aggressive or like heavy metal or hip hop or something. It was a beautiful acoustic rendition of the song, and I don't know, it was I don't know, it just struck as organically interesting. It's just like I set up these cameras sometimes every week. I shoot all of my shows with them and things like that, just hoping to capture something that has, you know, some of that mojo, and it just, you know, and you wouldn't even necessarily take any credit for it because it's about the whole moment of the whole thing. Yeah. So, I would totally believe that was organic viewership.
You know, the take before that, like we did that one, and I did 3 takes, and the second take was I wound up, you know, I didn't do it on purpose, but I drew a tear. Like a tear came down. I was just so in the moment, and then I fucked up the guitar part, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I finished it, and was like, "Okay, we'll do one more." And then I did that one, and that's the one that you see on YouTube. Yeah. But I was like, "Dude, if that tear had come through, like, holy fucking shit!" Like,
I would have added it in post in slow motion.
I
would have taken the tear from take 1. And while you're at that moment, I would have faded in the tear on take 2.
Yeah.
Can we get both those takes? I'll do a super cut. Get me those takes.
That would. I don't know if it didn't line up. It might have been the tempo or whatever. But the 3 takes, one was kind of okay, and then the second one was just like really on it, and then I blew the guitar part. Like, I think it was just so bad at the same moment that it was just. I didn't want to use it, like, because maybe I should have used it for the performance, like for the emotion of it. But what we did that day was
great.
It came off great. Yeah.
But that just means that you were connected and that you were doing the right thing at the right time, and then it was, you know, just captured in a way that that's the biggest thing when some people just want to get into the weeds of the quantifiable reasons why producing stuff is better one way than another way.
Yeah.
I could talk to you in great, like, physical detail about, you know, we're shooting in 4K 25. That's why I prefer that to 4K 60 or 1080 60 or whatever. But really, the whole thing is you're trying to set it up so that you can capture something meaningful in a respectful way.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I think Brian did that with everybody's performance.
That's why I loved that series and him doing that. It's because he had that experience of being the performer, performing on other people's cameras, and then, you know, producing other people on camera and taking all those things. And, you know, it was, again, I think that series was also just a brilliant alignment of aptitudes.
And now that series is over, as well as Lo-Fi, which I mentioned earlier, like I hope that I realized it the other day. I was like, well, shit, I'm just beginning this, and maybe this can be a partial, at least, continuation of, if I get St. Louis culture, that's where I got to start, of course. St. Louis music culture and art culture, and then go through that, and then hopefully it expands and I mean, we got some cool irons in the fire.
Yeah.
I'm
I've
ready
also
to
been
discuss,
talking
but-
to a guy who used to be involved with the RFT showcase,
Yeah.
and the RFT is not around anymore.
Right, yeah.
But there was a funny moment. I played the RFT showcase twice. Once for B. James, who was on the show last month, and good friend of the show. And we did a show together at Joe's Cafe, and that's on the patreon.com/JacobV. And free to all members. And there's a free membership tier, and there's a growing list of things you can access there for free. But if you want to pay $1 a month, it's on there.
I gotta start myself. A Patreon.
It's also really great because, again, if I'm a creator, I'm trying to be creating throughout the year.
Yeah.
And as the audience is telling us they want us to have things for them throughout the year.
Right.
And so if you're a music person, locally, you don't really want to gig one market more than every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And maybe less than that. And then singles and new videos, like for full length songs, you really don't want to do more than once a month.
Yeah.
But if you can get up to once a month, that's a clip, daddy.
Yeah.
And then you could fill the space in between with, I'm a singer, songwriter, musician, producer, performer. I'm the songbird of my generation, and I have a podcast. So that I can, because I'm going to be doing this anyway, sitting around talking about, what are you guys doing? Here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We should do this. We should remember this.
Yeah.
This was great. So,
putting it in, putting a microphone in front of it, like, is just expanding the reach, expanding the conversation.
just to document even the city and the scene as I'm experiencing it. You know what I mean? Because I think about, like, imagine if Jimmy Griffin had a podcast this whole time.
Right. Sure.
If Jimmy Griffin had just a weekly audio diary since the King of the Hill days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And just like, you just catch up with him every week about, I was doing Celebration Day this weekend, and I was doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because there's moments and interactions and stuff that you hear about that are so cool and build up the lore and the fellowship of the scene and the community you're trying to build, that if you could document some of those, how fun would that be?
Yeah.
And how many of those accidental moments, sometimes something happens now and I'm out somewhere and I look around, I'm like, nobody's recording this right now.
Right.
And it's nice to still have real life moments.
See, this kind of stuff is, I liken it to back in the day when you'd get your, for us it was CDs and maybe cassettes and vinyl. Just
I still love a cassette.
But like opening up, doing this kind of stuff, and then like you were talking about our day to day, if we were documenting a day in the life of an artist or musician or whatever, that's your information sleeve. Who? What?
Is it Sina or Sina?
Sina Sopro.
Sina Sopro does that really well. I love catching up on her.
Yeah.
A day in the life of
a week. This is what I did this week.
And she's so
busy. I went to here and I went
People
to
think I'm busy. This girl is busy.
Jeez,
and
she's
so
the
gifted.
hardest working musician.
She's
that I know.
She's got like a little James Brown in her somewhere.
Oh yeah,
that. Like she was.
But the best parts of James.
Oh no, the good parts.
Saria Conway, Sina Sopro.
Yeah,
check her out.
Gifted, great follow on TikTok.
Sopro. Yeah.
And great music. Actually, I still don't really have the courage to do the one man show like she does with the way she can employ the technology and.
Did she? I went last. It was a few weeks ago, three weeks ago, maybe now, and she was performing at the St. Louis Art Museum Slam, and it was a 3-hour. She produced it all. She, she's a composer, like all material, all original material, like for 3 hours, like nonstop, man.
I mean,
who can do that?
By herself.
3 hours. All of the instruments, layers, loops, 3 or 4 different instruments, including her vocals, which she's got a cappella stuff. And she'll sing in Mandarin, 6-part choir harmonies, turn on a pedal. She's doing the bass.
Does she speak Mandarin?
At least for that song. Something, dude. I mean, it was maybe a choir exercise.
If she speaks Mandarin now, I'm calling shenanigans. She's a CIA asset if she speaks Mandarin. That's too.
Dude.
If she's not, she should be.
If you didn't think she was already incredible, now
she
takes the cake, dude.
She could at least sing a whole choir piece by herself in Mandarin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a link to something of hers in here,
Yeah.
just because this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
See, there's people that know both of us even who
Right.
don't know her.
Yeah.
And then if we were just at CBGB's just talking like this and nobody knew, it's kind of a shame because I was an early adopter, so I've always loved the original heart of the internet for some of us as consumers was the freedom of discovery and connection.
Yeah.
And so, when I find something I like, I really want to share it with other people.
Yeah.
And there's a growing, population, especially, online and in cute neighborhoods like this and whatnot, like people that do concerts in their backyards or their front porches to fundraise for artists.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
That happened. What was that guy's name? He lives on, I don't know, in Northampton area or whatever, and he put on COVID concerts every once in a while from his front porch.
Yeah.
It's a very popular name, and I wish I could remember it.
Yeah, there's a few people in town that do cool stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
he's been around for a minute.
My thing is that there's people across the greater area, people that we think might not care about artists living in the city, who maybe are moms that live in Wildwood or something, but they, have a friend or a relative that was a musician, so they love musicians, and then if they recognize somebody, they keep up with them.
Yeah.
And you may not think it's a big deal to them, but you're maybe one of the only singer-songwriters locally that come up in their algorithms at all.
Yeah.
And they're supporting you that way. So if we can amplify that stuff, make sure, you have something for people to do when they find you, kids. If you're creating stuff, I guarantee you somebody's mom would love you. Just make sure she has something you can sell her. I got asked, I'm building a web store right now for some of my merch. I got asked yesterday, can I buy it online? And I'm like, I'm doing it right now. Give me 36 hours.
Yeah.
And because if I had known that, I would have done merch and stuff way sooner.
Speaking of which, I am going to do merch. I was talking to my friend, Dr. Roz Norman. She's awesome.
Shout out.
GIS, I forget, Gateway. I forget what it means. I'll have to send you a link for that. Anyway, she showed me this site
notes
called my memory is terrible.
That's all right. We're okay.
Anyway, spinning plates, man. So my brain's all over the place.
I hear you.
But anyway, she was like, yeah, they've changed the way crowdsourcing and fundraising, and Hollywood's looking at it's called The Chosen. It's a biblical series, I suppose. And Hollywood's looking at the way that they raised funds, and she said one of the aspects is merch. And I was talking about a Patreon and whatnot, and I was like, well, I don't know if I have anything. You could
also now sell merch on Patreon.
Yeah.
And you could sell artifacts, I could sell an album.
Yeah.
I do this. I have an anthology of the lossless quality master files of all the songs I've released or whatever, including some that Lucius and I did. We're at Doorstop Studio, but you can, but that's the thing. So you could sell the movie as a download.
Yeah. Right.
And so they don't have to be an ongoing member to support one time and buy something, but then also they could be giving $4 or $5 a month to launch something or whatever. I'm wondering if they have a crowdfunding kind of feed though.
Yeah.
Because you think they would.
Something to keep our wheels turning. Because as we all know, having to keep a somewhat steady job, on top of spending hours and hours, developing your craft.
Yeah.
It's just either time consuming, tiring, or whatever. And if there are enough people that can support us, and we can give back at least while we're doing the thing, if I make it, I think I've got a pretty great idea for merch. I'm reticent to discuss, tell what it's going to be.
But just what we'll say is stay tuned for merch.
Yeah.
You People Music.
Yeah.
The Sellout series. Because that's the thing too, is to some people, for me, it's $1 a week, and they are a fan of the podcast, and they make me feel accountable to trying to do it weekly or 3 times a month or whatever to keep up with them. And part of the reason why I take these little breaks, we haven't done one in a couple of weeks, is because I know they're not caught up. A lot of these people are people I can stay in contact with, but also that. If I didn't have a Patreon, we would not be doing this here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't know if there was enough of a, network around the show to even support it enough to even do as much as we're doing by just even doing it somewhere other than my basement. The reason you specifically, the reason you were not on my show earlier is because I felt like my house wasn't clean enough to invite you specifically over. Just because I had never like hung out with you in a long form enough time to be like, I don't need to reveal this to myself about him. Like, I don't need to reveal this to him about myself. Because probably, I bet immediately after, it's just funny because you were like the specific person that I was like, I really want to talk to. It was probably when the blip video came out that I was like, I would love to have Chan on the podcast and talk about you people and whatnot. And I turned around and I looked at I had a drum set, but it was under Diet Cokes, you know what I mean? And like, I have 2 big cats, and I'm like,
I know why. That's funny. Y'all, Jacob and I used to work together too, and so in my role as the music director, the boss, and all that stressful fucking shit. Like, dude, you knew me as that, and like, why isn't that cable? Not why isn't that cable rap, but like, hey, let's keep a standard and all the and I'm like having to.
Because we never really we knew of each other before that from gigs and stuff, but we had never hung out.
We
either.
Never shared a soda. You know? And I love you. I absolutely adore you.
One of these?
No. Okay. I mean, that just came to mind. That's not what I'm saying. But we never had time to be Jacob and Chan talking about
anything.
What's in our heart? What's in our head? What's on our plate? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
I'm
so grateful to be here with this, and we can do this anytime with cameras or mics or not.
But, absolutely. Yeah. And
but I love your band, by the way.
Oh, well,
No Antics is.
Oh well, thank you so much. Yeah. I think you'd like Blinded by Stereo too, because it's. I'll send you some of their stuff.
Please do.
They're not nearly as much on social media yet.
Oh yeah,
just because of they're a little bit older.
Oh right, so they're old curmudgeons.
Our TikTok stuff for No Antics is mostly like Dee Dee's like grinding that stuff like every day, and so like I would never be able to keep up with it like that to that extent. But thank you. But that was the main thing is just because it requires like a level of intimacy and whatnot. And think about, the venues you've hosted for your interviews. Some of them were more casual than others. The blues singers from the radio.
Oh, Bernie and UV Hayes.
That's the Hayes. Yes. That, for example,
you would BB's.
Okay, but you wouldn't want to bring them to your apartment,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or that kind of thing. And so having a little bit of money to fund something that you want to see being created means that you can do it in a respectful way, and so you could have more versatility. We could host more professional people here, for example, or in a venue that they or us have a connection with. That's
if you build it,
organized. Exactly. Do you know what I was watching last night? Because it's free on YouTube. Wayne's World 2.
Oh yeah.
If you book them, they will come.
Yeah.
And then Rip Taylor acting like he didn't know who Jim Morrison was hilarious. That's my favorite part of that whole movie. He's like, Jim Morrison, I'm not familiar with your work. And he played me a song by The Doors. And I said, oh, you're really more of a crooner. But that's exactly...
That movie is so underrated, man.
That's my favorite thing about... I think bandwidth had to catch up. But I always really wanted the internet to be a thing that allowed people to create something they wanted to do themselves. Or and just send it to people that want it. And, it's because it removes so many of the gatekeeping of, like, you used to have to move to New York or Los Angeles and shoot a talk show in a studio that was being sponsored by... When I listen to all those stories now about show business back in the day like that, I think, like, oh, you guys just weren't hustling and grinding. Nobody was paying for their own shit. They're like, you need a studio because you got to rent a camera. I'm like, buy a fucking camera.
Speaking of which, I did just make a bunch of purchases, too, with that first wave. I'm going to call it the first wave of those funds. So I got my Sony FX30, which is Netflix.
Oh, those are nice.
Very nice. I got, a tripod, some memory. I'm still working on lights and stuff. There's a lot of things, but I have a producer now. I'm not going to reveal her name until we're all ready. We haven't really, but it's a dear friend, but she's a major fucking cog in St. Louis, like TV, and like she's a badass, dude. She's a badass, and
and that's the thing too. I think it's also with the internet, you're seeing that all of these institutions, people that have stayed in the business that used to be in something like TV or radio, they've seen themselves have to completely integrate into online and social media to remain viable. And so now some of those professionals independently feel like, you know, what if I applied my skills to this in a way that, you know, if you look at, I'm not going to say his name, there's a talk show that is now on X. Yeah. And it looks like it's on TV. It looks just like the show when it was on network television. Yeah. But it's a little cleaner. It doesn't have nearly as much junk, and it's just got the X logo in the corner, like it's on Comedy Central or something. You know what I mean? Right. Which would probably be a better venue for it. Comedy Central is just reruns of South Park and The Office now, and The Office wasn't even originally on.
The
it's
MTV
crazy.
Of you know,
it's sad.
Now it's just
It's just like it's like forcing the Chuck E. Cheese band to keep playing even after they demolish the rest of the store around them. You know what I mean? You drive by like rubble, and there's just a Chuck E. Cheese band. Happy birthday, and that's what's wrong with my brain. So,
dude, I'm dancing with you.
So I'm loving. So we're GoFundMeing the process of the production. Again, you notice as we start to see just a little bit of funding take off, the production now has
elevated
things it needs. It has people it needs. Yep. And because it's already been reflected that, you know, there's an appetite for it.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, when you that's, you know, when I came in, like my brain is spinning, like I'm in the middle of a move and all this stuff too. But like when that is, you know, an opportunity is presented, like I'm learning, and I think I've always done it all my life, but like you just step through the door and figure out what's coming next. Like you just got to step in through the door and like, okay, I needed this to get to this point. All right, here's the next opportunity, and I got to step through. And man, all this stuff happened within like a several hours. You know, like we were talking about something else, and then, you know, I just brought up, it's like, man, it'd be great to have somebody to help me. I'm doing this solo. You know, have somebody help me keep it organized or be able to move forward. You know, raise the level of professionalism for this series, because I'm changing the format just a little bit to be a lot more exciting. You know, it was who I had on before that was the fuel. Now it's what we're going to be doing and
what you're talking about.
And what we're talking about is what's propelling this even further. And now, you know, so that means something like this producer and this, you know, this equipment, like the bar is raised, and it's like, okay, I gotta, like David Bowie
that's
said,
what a successful pilot process is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like, look, this is what we did with hardly anything, and this is the message, and this is where we want to take this, and then someone says, okay, let's just add this, and we're good to go. I just listened to an interview on, it must have been 88.7 because that's all I listen to now. In the Grand Marquis, which is fresh out of the shop. Shout out to Afton Auto Service. I've never had more joy driving my car than this weekend with everything working, and it's a smooth daddy. Nice. And him telling me, no, this car has plenty of life left in it. I'm like, rev it up. Man. I put premium gasoline in it.
Well, look out.
It's not cheap. I don't understand how people live like that. I got half a tank of premium in there right now, sloshing around. And
I love how it's half a tank.
I wasn't out of gas, but I wanted to burn some gas, so I didn't want to run out. So I said, let's start with some gas. And I said, you know what? We're getting 93 today, girl. And but that's the thing. I was listening to an interview. I forget her name, so I'll have to look it up because maybe she'll send you some money. That would be so great. She's a woman of color who is a film director. She's done like 10 movies, and she's in a phase in her career where she wants to consult and produce some things, and I'm just thinking about the target of but her thing is that she had no idea because she had no experience when she did her first movie that ended up getting accepted to Sundance or something, and that's how she got started. That she had no idea that anyone would even give her the time of day, and then she got in, and then I think won, and I forget the name of the film. This is awful, and but until she took the leap to even get to that level, to even ask anybody for any kind of validation. Or validation or support. Cut that. Until she got to that point where she asked anybody for that validation or support, she didn't know that she would ever be worthy of it. And now she's like a critically acclaimed, apparently nameless person. So that's exactly the process you're going through. Like,
it's this weird chrysalis phase,
which is hilarious, because
imposter syndrome.
Hilarious is the wrong word, but the message is that people didn't take us seriously. People treated us like shit. And so it totally makes sense to me that you would be reluctant for people to take you seriously and support what you're doing.
Right. Because, you know, like the arts, like, is the first thing that's cut out of school budgets, you know, and before sports, you know, before the, you know, then the band is next, you know, orchestra or whatever, or they're playing refurbished or super used
geriatric tubas, bro.
Yeah. With dents and blemishes and
mouthpieces from
terrible.
The 90s.
So, but yeah, like I had dealt with imposter syndrome. I remember when You People signed with Far-Fetched. I mean, it's not a label, you know, in the same traditional sense, but it was a collective. Like, we were sitting in one of the meetings, or like it was kind of a barbecue or like a welcome thing. And there were all these great artists, and like this guy, Accurate the Wise, like he rapped, and I think Owen Ragland, like I forget what his group was, like he rapped, and there were all these other people there. And I'm like, am I expected to perform now? And like, these guys are fucking, what am I doing here? I'm this weird outcast. And like, and I finally talked to, you know, one of the partners, and he was like, yeah, that's exactly why you're here, that we want you in that. So it was, I forget that when I'm let into the room, they were actually, and that's the intention. I'm wanted here, you know, like,
and it's a surprise.
I feel like I'm in. I've walked in and I felt like, you know, for some reason I'm imposing.
Even though you were invited and I was late, and like, you know what I mean.
But somehow I made it my fault, you know, like, or like, shit.
But I also was doing that, so that's the thing. So then we both come in here, and that explains also why we were, you know, so reluctant to ever hang out. Probably is because we were both like, oh, I don't want to bug him.
Yeah.
But we're both doing that to each other.
Yeah, and you know what's that Death Cab for Cutie? Well, you know, I think of all the romances I could have had if I just thought of something clever to say, or something like that, whatever it was. But like, yeah,
that's close enough.
Just speak it up. You know, like, what's the worst anybody can tell you is no. I mean, bugger off. I'll call the cops. You know, which is kind of a thing.
Also, part of the narrative.
Yeah,
in your in your series. You know what I mean? It's definitely a relevant component.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Whew, I tell you.
I know it's a journey, and it's just so good.
Be kind to your favorite artists. Be kind to artists that you don't know.
Just even let them know that you know about them.
Yeah, there's a war going on in here. You know, there's a war going on in here, and we're all fighting it. And
and there's people. There are people that are their peers who are not supportive of their peers, right? So there are people that we work with that would tell us, quit doing that, nobody cares, cut it out.
I've heard that. I've recently heard that. Someone said that to me. Like,
and I didn't know that you had recently heard that.
Well, like, you know, I was like, hey man, I'm really going to try to pursue this. You know, I left my former career of 10 years for ethical reasons, you know, and it's like, all right, look, man, I'm teaching everybody what I want to do.
Yeah.
Why am I not doing it? And I'm already supporting people that don't need my support.
Yeah.
And I'm giving my magic away. That's the way I thought about it.
Well, and just the time. If you look at the amount of time that, for example, children need.
Yeah.
And how much easier it is to give that time to kids that don't need as much of it.
Yeah, right. It's what I needed growing up, you know, like this imaginative kid, you know, I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't know what a Montessori school was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what, you know, there weren't any programs like what we worked for.
There weren't even adults telling you that you deserved any of that.
my parents, like, no, but who listens to their parents?
But also, your parents were not being given adequate information of their options by their community, by the school system and whatever. Absolutely.
So here I am trying to do these things, and I don't even remember where I was going with that, but trying to do this. Really, we do need your support, and that's why PBS and Bob Ross was as happy as could be on camera, but man, his life was a mess. And I'm not saying that I'm where Bob Ross is, but like trying to do this takes an extreme amount of organization. It does take funds. I can't work 40, 60, 80 hours and still do this, which I think is bigger than making the almighty dollar for somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's not like I wanted, what I was saying was like, I'm telling, this friend, like, I want to do this. I have to do this. And I was thinking of moving away to do it again. Moving away again to do it, and like, hey, do you want to take part in this? And he's like, basically, I don't know what you want from me, I hope if you see this, buddy, like, that did hurt. It really hurt. I'm sorry. I still love you, but it hurt. Like, I don't want you. I just wanted to include him. Like, hey, if you want to be a small part in this, I'm not saying I'm leaning completely on you. I'm doing this, but I'd love for you to do part of this with me. And he sent me a clip of this guy saying, yeah, artists, we do this because we love it, and it's like, yeah, dude, 35 years as a professional musician, and this is all I've known since I was 10, and the first photo of me is me sitting on my father's lap when I was 2 years old, and I've got headphones on like I am now, and I'm like wide-eyed, like, what the fuck is this? That's the day my body found out I'm supposed to be a musician. I've done this all my life. I know that we don't expect to make millions of dollars. It just happens. But I want to do this and figure out ways to support it.
But we don't necessarily even want to participate in the system that is so expensive.
Yeah, right.
The same people that are telling us that we have to make money are the ones that are telling us that we have to pay so much money for everything.
Yeah, because they want us to pay the taxes.
Like, I didn't get my driver's license until I was almost 18 because I didn't want to have to get a job in a pizza kitchen to pay for a car.
Right.
I only needed a car to have a job.
Yeah.
And I only needed a job to pay for the car.
Right.
So I'm like, can we... Hello,
snake eating.
They're trying to get you into a subservient financial system so they can plug you into the grid. And it's worse now than it was then because everything is a subscription. Everyone wants to hit you every month for everything at the corporate level.
Yeah. Without, so much as caring about what art you're making, like, oh, well, let me get our piece of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not at all. I mean, because we used to get big breaks as educators or as employees of stores that sold these products or as whatever that are just not around anymore. Like, what if it's just $9 a month instead of $15? I'm like, well, I hope I'm making $9 this month on the thing I'm using Pro Tools for or whatever the tool is. You know what I mean?
Well, all of that to say, like, that exchange between me and this friend that I still hold dear and I love him, but that was a fuel to the fire, and this wouldn't really be happening for two instances, that and then a discussion that I had actually with Brian McClellan of Blip Blap Video. Like, he contacted me and said, hey, my wife can't go to see Billy D. Williams, at his book tour. You want to come with me? And we did, and we're sitting there waiting for old Lando to come on out, and he's like, so where's the film? Like, where are you at on the film? Like, oh yeah, we did that.
People know, and people want to.
Yeah, he's like, so what are you gonna do with it? What are your plans? And I'm like, and I just made something up real quick. It's like, well, I guess I'll put it into clips instead of trying to do a whole feature. And then next time I saw him, we talked about it, and he said, dude, putting it on YouTube was the right move because anybody can access it right now, and you can build from there. And making it clips was absolutely the right move, because it's digestible. And then further, another conversation with somebody else. I'm going to shout him out, Jelani Buchanan, Backbeat. He came over one afternoon, and we sat and talked for a while. And he said, "Man, YouTube Shorts, TikTok clips with captions. People are going to see that, and
people
you can
are
link
doing
it to
that
it
with feature films, like dramatic feature films, even, and not even recently. This is the thing too, is that there was that song "Chicago" by that guy from Stranger Things, that came out like 3 years before it then got famous and was very successful on TikTok.
Yeah, right.
So on clips, if they die after the first week, that makes sense. But long form content stays there and generates traffic over time. And there's a number of things that I've rewatched that were posted
on TikTok?
No, on YouTube. I mean,
YouTube. Okay. Yeah.
So the long form stuff.
Yeah.
That, all those episodes.
Yeah.
Because you produce them in a way that like this respectfully conveys the message I'm trying to convey. Stay there and you own them. And they're not like, this is a pilot I did on this network and they own it, but I can send it to you or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It lives independent, but also propels all the future stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? I still get downloads of old episodes of this show.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That, just because it existed at a certain time.
And then it'll show up a year or two later.
It may have another reason to show up. And sometimes I'll go back and make clips of an old episode because maybe that episode never had clips because I wasn't doing clips yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I could technically go back and make clips of all of them. So even if you were to do a full-length feature film, it's always going to end up in clips at some point just to even let people know that it exists.
Right.
And it happens to me weekly.
Yeah.
I'll see a dramatic scene in a clip form from a movie.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, what is this movie?
Yeah.
I got to go put this movie on while if I'm sitting at my desk playing Helldivers and editing something and whatever, I could have something on and it might as well be this movie that I only know about because of this 30-second clip.
Yeah. And while that's playing, I'll go over to search whatever trailer, and then if it's interesting enough, like if it's not already out because I finally see it, or I'll go to the theater or I'll watch it, stream it on Netflix or whatever it's on. So speaking of, I have all 4 episodes of, I'm calling it season 1 because this next, it's been a bit. So all 4 clips of season 1, like in their full form, are there, and then I've got just shitloads of clips.
Yeah.
Just different spots in the film that hit on different subjects so that everybody can maybe see something that's resonates
well,
with
and it's
them.
so helpful because if I remember something from the long form episode and I want to send it to somebody, going back and finding it in a clip is, and that could be the exact avenue to
oh my God, we were just talking about this. Here's a clip about.
Here's the clip from that show I was telling you about, and it's just the part they want to share with them. Because especially like with the Hayes, that their story had so many different components, and it covered so much time, and it's so valuable that you have that whole record of that. But then also, 30 seconds of that may be a complete capsule of the image or the message that would be perfect to share with somebody. And it's going to start happening that a producer of some kind is going to see, oh, you know what, this filmmaker sent me a TikTok from one of their pieces, and that was the first time I'd ever heard about them or the piece, and now we're producing the next season of their thing. It's exactly like that.
I mean, dude, it's hard. It's so foggy to see into the future. Master Yoda. In the future, it's far.
It's clouded.
Yeah, clouded. It's so I'm so future forward, and like if I can't see it, it does make me. And I don't panic. I don't typically panic in like frightening situations, but it's like, is this happening? Is this working? And I'm not seeing the immediate feedback right away, but there's a it just takes a while to develop these things, and all of this stuff is kind of coming in. And I feel like if it crashes in like at once, it'll drive me nuts. So I think
you don't want to set it up for failure by forcing it to go into full speed immediately or too quickly or unnecessarily.
But I got a few podcasts like this. I got this one today, and then I'm going to be on Shane Presley, Rock Paper Podcast, and there's one, the Daily Dirt with Dirk Diggs. I think it's Dirk Diggs or something like that. I'm going on his the 15th. But like these things are happening gradually, so it is kind of growing at a. I feel like I want it to go at a faster pace because I'm just so impulsive
but also because you're investing in the
Yeah.
future of it, and so some of that just takes time. Because I could already tell you, just those three. Just everything you've told me that you already have in motion today is going to fill your summer with fallout of what to do with the momentum and extra things that come from that. Somebody's going to hear. I mean, Shane's show is huge just because it's so old and he does that daily list of all of the shows in town.
Yeah.
And I mean, and just because he enjoys it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's so awesome too.
He's such a sweet guy. But he's not like, I don't even think he plays himself musically.
I don't think so.
And
might have done something back in the day, maybe.
I don't even think so. He probably has a guitar.
Yeah.
And he probably has a cool singing voice, but he's not a singer. Like he's not trying to do the thing he's promoting.
Yeah.
He's just a fan of it.
Yeah.
And I think it started with, he was like a bouncer at the Oyster Bar.
Oh yeah, okay.
At a point, I think that's how his relationship with music locally started. I think he was telling me, I was on the show once when Lucius and I did an album many years ago.
Yeah,
I did his show to promote it because I didn't have this show yet.
There's another friend of mine, Doug Taramura. He's just probably the biggest music fan that I've ever met. Like he and I are going to go up to Chicago to see Beat, which is the King Crimson project.
Yeah.
With
they're not coming here.
Actually, they announced a show. I think they're coming to maybe the Factory or something or somewhere.
I hate that place.
I saw the smile there. It's the Chesterfield thing, right?
Yeah. It just I was in the mezzanine for Elvis Costello, which is also not a great show. But when I walked in, it immediately reminded me of the theater on the Carnival cruise ship I went on in the year 2000.
Oh man!
And so that was my thing. I'm like, oh cool, I'm gonna go see Steve Vai at a Carnival cruise ship theater.
It just makes him a little small.
It's not it's not the size. I thought I had a lovely view of the stage, but the room itself, and because I was on the back wall and I could see all of it, I was like, oh, the stage looks good.
Yeah.
They don't even sound bad.
Yeah.
But the room looks like shit.
Yeah.
And it's not pitch black in there either, because you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was
So it's
was an odd room, but
which is fine.
He should have a podcast because he's got so many stories of like hanging out with the Rolling Stones, and you know, it's
just I'm laughing because I just watched Wayne's World 2 last night, like I mentioned, and so that guy, you know, I had to beat them to death with their own shoes.
the roadie,
Del Preston,
yes, Del Preston. Yeah, so this is Doug, and I mean he's not a musician. He's not, you know, I don't think he's ever worked in the industry. I'm not even sure what his career was. I know he's retired, but he's
wondering what he was doing.
I don't know. He might have been CIA or something like that. I'm not sure. But.
The CIA says, "Listen, sir, we need you to go hang out with the Rolling Stones.
Right.
Just let us know what's up. If they talk about Cuba at all, you know, get out of there."
That Keith Richards fella.
We don't like him.
Yeah.
That's the only reason, apparently, that Exile wasn't recorded at Muscle Shoals is because he was he couldn't be in the country because he's not a citizen.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he had gotten arrested for heroin.
Oh, shit.
And so they were in France.
Yeah.
Because that's where they
I thought they were avoiding taxes in London, so they had to go.
Well, I think that's also why they weren't in London either, though. Okay, that's why there was a reason he didn't want to be at home. And
shady.
But they did Sticky Fingers at Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
And it's like my favorite Rolling Stones album, and now I understand why. And then but then that's the reason that the next one wasn't there in that same place, because they probably would have just ran it back.
Right. Yeah.
So
oh man.
It's
you know what? We didn't this is why we're doing part 2, because there were a bunch of questions that you had that we didn't get to. Do we even talk about
Well, I feel like I've woven them in because I've been having this
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I've been having this conversation in my head for a minute, but as we're coming up on, you know, I don't want to hold you past our agreed time because I need to let you get on with your day here. But so we're talking about You People music. They called me a sellout, being black in the white rock and roll industry.
Yeah.
And first 4 episodes are on YouTube, and there's tons of different ways to digest that. Yeah. And there's GoFundMe on the Instagram, 302090.
3220.
3220.
Yeah, 32-20.
I play a song with a
Productions.
band called 504090.
Oh.
3220?
Yes. That was an old band, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that'll help me remember.
It's a Robert Johnson song, 3220 Blues, and we
Yeah.
were called 3220, and that just stuck with me.
3220 Productions.
It's easier to say than the Mpemba effect.
Yeah, You People Music, 3220 Productions. There's a GoFundMe to help fund future episodes of the show. If you haven't watched the whole series, watch it, because you're going to agree that it's important and it's encapsulating something that's not really been discussed enough, and there's not really a place where that's going to be happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
So,
if I can,
please, anything at all.
So everyone kind of knows. So it does talk about, the origins of rock history, but it started as really a self-examination. Like, it was me thinking about when I grew up and being in the middle, too white for the black kids, too black for the white kids. Episode 3, we actually, that's Brandon Mason and Brandon Patton. We talk about, code switching and like kind of growing up in the suburbs and being one of few black kids in a predominantly white neighborhood and school. Episode 1, Steve Ewing, we talk about, we talk about some police profiling that he dealt with, which is something that we've all kind of dealt with.
It's a great part of the series. If you haven't watched it, that's a great moment.
With Bernie and UV Hayes, episode 2, we talk mostly about what it was like in Jim Crow era America, playing, the Chitlin Circuit and being forced. And Chitlin Circuit is all legendary now, but it's still kind of a thing. But it was really because, blacks couldn't enter this space. And this is what they created for themselves. And it's, you get greats like Little Richard, Isley Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, James Brown, like, the list goes on and on,
and for decades.
For decades.
I mean, people think we're just talking about the 50s and the 60s, but this went on into the 80s even for some artists.
Howlin' Wolf. I mean, there, I need to mention some female artists too. Like Aretha Franklin was part of it. Like anybody that was black through the 40s, 50s, 60s, that was a performer and they couldn't perform in white spaces. Anyone that you've ever heard of on any podcast, article, MTV, whatever.
Any of your favorite artists telling you they loved this artist.
Yes. They were part of the Chitlin Circuit, and that's who we talk about.
Or they were exiled and everyone was told they were crazy, or they were a drug addict.
They were plagiarized.
That goes back to George Clinton and Jimi Hendrix and
emasculation. They were like, there were often like Little Richard was probably one of the most famous. Like he would lighten his skin with makeup. They would dress in drag sometimes. Like the white crowds would. Like the more a male artist was emasculated, like the less impact that they had somehow. Like we were talking about, the palette, like I approached our former company, about, hey, okay, we're probably pretty underserved. We're definitely underserved as far as, young musicians of color. And I said to one of the executives in one of the meetings, like, look, man, like Eddie Murphy would say, I don't want to beat you over the head with my big black stuff, like just try to shove this down their throat, because we know that some of these people your bottom line will, they either don't want to hear it or they'll eschew it or whatever. And I don't want to come off as too pushy on these things, and that's
also part of the problem.
It's a shame. That's right.
Because think about what those people would say about you if you said no. Even if you didn't cuss at them, if you got aggressive at all,
right? That's just like how they are.
Right.
Yep,
well,
there it is. There it is.
Right. I don't feel safe in this conversation.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever, and I'm.
It's got to be spoon-fed, and that's what I said to
get the buy-in.
It's
like, but everyone expects, especially a company that runs their labor to profit model, whatever you want to call it, their equation for that. When they run it like a fast food business, the answer to these great existential challenges, including diversity and inclusion and whatnot, they're not going to just fit into that 20% that you're setting aside for all of these issues.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's hard. We just have to build alternatives. You know what I mean? We talked about this on the show. If I won the Powerball, the first thing I would do is, some sort of a sponsored program like that, where the families and the students don't necessarily have to worry about giving me money at all, but they can have access to that level of immersion in a skill.
Yeah. Do you play the Powerball?
When it's up.
Gotta do it. Yeah.
When it's...
Dude, $1 million will get you a long way.
Oh, I already spent it in my head. I know exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm nothing crazy either. There's so many things. And this is the other thing too. Artists in St. Louis, if you're watching this, I have a shopping list of anything you've made that I want to spend money on. And as soon as I hit that Powerball, I'm cleaning it out. Make sure you got 3 X's in stock, because this is what I'm saying. People don't understand that if you give people that like you an opportunity to support you, they will.
Yeah.
And that you're worth it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you would have given up by now.
Yeah. And if you've ever been to, hopefully you have, to a local show, whether it's CBGB up to a local band that finally graces the stage of the pageant, and we're pimping the touring band's merch. Buy ours. We know what it's like to be on the road and have to get to the next destination. So but those local bands are speaking for the other band, but we need to say something for ourselves too. Like, I know you can only buy the same T-shirt and buy the same album one time, but we can't print off vinyl discs, digital. Shirt that costs so much money.
It's so expensive.
Yeah. Hopefully you can help us get to the point where we all have all of these options, to where, like, my favorite band, I have their shirts. I've got every shirt, and I bought the EPs, and I bought the bootlegs, and not bought the bootlegs, I guess, but you buy what do they call those? The imports. The different same album on 3 different mediums.
Did that. One of my best friend's bands put out a vinyl, and it came in one of 3 colors. One of them was black.
Boom, boom, boom.
Well, and so I didn't buy the black one, but I couldn't pick between the blue one and the yellow one, and so they were only $18 a piece. This was Jared Madigan. Cut that. And I hate saying someone's full name when they didn't know I was going to say it.
Oh yeah.
But that. And they were only $18 a piece, which is way cheap for a vinyl. Yeah. And it's okay to pay more for something if you feel like it's a good deal. But so I just bought both the colors I wanted. Yeah. And they were like, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." I'm like, "Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did.
Otherwise, you're gonna have one that I want, but it's gonna sit in your garage.
Yeah.
Let it sit in my basement.
I guarantee you, every band you've ever seen in St. Louis area has a box of CDs.
I got a couple of CDs I could still sell you, baby. I got a limited edition, never to be printed again. If you want, I got at least 7 or 8 of them.
Yep.
And I bought CDs that I've ever opened.
Yeah.
Because I have it's on Spotify.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But I saw them at a show.
Yeah.
And they have a CD. I'm like, CDs are cheap. I mean, but I have no intention of playing it. I could, because I drive a classic car that has a CD player.
Yeah.
But unnecessary.
Yeah.
What's your time like?
I'm good. What time is it?
It's 2:15.
I'm good. As long as give me one sec. If I'm clear here. All right, I'm good.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask specifically about one thing you mentioned. I remember. Can we, to give people an idea of some of the content we're talking about on the series, can you tell me about a time or a pattern that you noticed while traveling and playing music where it was challenging to maybe be the only gentleman of color in the situation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, whether I'm traveling or in my own home fucking town.
Sure. Man. Oh, absolutely. It's not going to be any better here.
Yeah. Right. So I grew up in Edwardsville, Illinois. That's not. I'll consider that my hometown, but it wasn't where I was born. And this all started. They called me Hootie.
Right.
And and I might have explained this in part 1, that at the time, in my 20s or whatever, I wore a baseball cap. as a kid did. And as soon as I put on my guitar, Hootie, you know, it's like that's the only person of color that you know that plays guitar. Okay, so that's me, I guess. And then, you know, I started growing dreads at a different, you know, or locks at a different point in time here and there, and they assume that I know Bob Marley, and that's
what you're trying to do.
They shout out Bob Marley, or you got some weed, like. If I did, I wouldn't tell you. And second, like, okay, oh, you into reggae? I'm into reggae. Okay, name 3 other artists that are not Bob Marley.
I'm into reggae.
Yeah, like, okay. And they can't. So experiencing that, and then, or, you know, I don't mean to sound racist, but like, okay, then don't say it. Just stop right there.
Yeah, you shouldn't have even actually said what you said, because that means that you're thinking something racist.
Yeah.
And so even if you don't say it, now I know you're thinking it, and I don't even know what it is. So I'm going to think it's worse.
And because I've smiled at you and said, oh, hey, nice to meet you, you think it's okay. We're not fucking friends.
I don't know you.
My favorite people on the planet won't fuck with me like that, you know? And here, you hear my language now. Yeah. It is a sensitive subject because it's just perpetual sometimes.
Right.
I you know, so, what else? And speaking about, you know, judging a book, judging the cover of the book, like walking through a parking lot, you know, to Schnucks or to a venue or something like that, and like I'll accidentally. I can tell when somebody's just setting their alarms just to set up their alarm. You can hear a door lock. Yeah. I can hear my door locks, but you don't have to make it beep. Not every car beeps. There are a few, boop, boop, you know, but then like when they'll see you like, oh, wait,
they'll
and then let me
smash it and beep it. I always feel like they're beeping it at me.
Yeah. Like,
but I'm just picturing, and this isn't, the images, the moment in the image is funny in my head, because what I'm picturing is you're walking through a full parking lot of cars, and like every third one is just beeping at you randomly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it is. It can be. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever had it happen twice in the same parking lot, you know, because I try to park kind of close. But and I have to think, you know, that's maybe in my head sometimes, but it's absolutely not all the time. And I can see it and I can feel it. And there are people that are not affected. Oh, that's not happening. Like, because it hasn't happened to you.
I was just about to say, I can tell you, I totally believe it happens to you, but I know it doesn't happen to me.
Right. So it's like there's a sinking feeling in your stomach. Like, you know, when somebody says something that is just microaggressions. And that's some of our training that we had at least I did for my position or whatever. Like,
but I thought other people were going to know about those. I've known about those for a long time, and I've always tried to like be sensitive to those. I remember being in church as a kid, and I was at a historically integrated church. It was kind of like the point.
Yeah.
And so we had older biracial couples that had really is that the preferred?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Race
I
couples?
think so. Yeah.
So it was an older white.
Could mean anything.
It was an older white lady, and then her Black American husband, and they were really great, and it was such a great place for me to just, you know, they would talk about their experiences and whatnot, and they were very open and very generous with their wisdom. But you hear about they can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, at any point.
Yeah.
At this point, they were married like 35 years.
Yeah. Double takes.
Like crazy. Yeah. Oh, that's the gentlest.
Are you all right, miss?
And at the time that I knew them, I was a young person, and we didn't have the term microaggressions like out there yet. You know what I mean? So we didn't know what to call it. But I was like, I remember asking my youth pastor and saying, is it even insensitive for me to assume that they've experienced something hard?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just like 1 in 3 women that I know that we all know have experienced SA at some point.
Thank you.
Right. And so, okay, something came to mind. I'm
please.
And it has nothing to do with music. It's loosely. I was on my way back from a rehearsal, and I think I was playing bass for a band at the time, and had a brand new car. It was 2005. I had a 2005 whatever, you know, a Scion. It was $20,000 car.
My Mercury's a 2005.
Is it?
Yeah.
But, and I saw out of the corner of my eye, it was dusk, and this woman was riding her bike, and she hit a curb, didn't see how steep, and she went indo and landed, and apparently like dislocated her shoulder.
Oh my.
That's the way it came. So I saw her and I pulled over and I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw you okay? And she's like, I'm really hurt. And like, will you help me call so-and-so, call my dad and call an ambulance? I'm talking her through it and she's holding my hand and I can feel her hand trembling and fighting back and she's like, you know, in pain. And I'm like, okay, we're good. You know, what's your name? And, you know, Jenny, she had a little drawl. This is in Southern Illinois. This is in Edwardsville. You know,
it gets Southern Illinois quick out there.
It does.
Once you clear certain
Middle
municipalities,
of the yeah.
And you are in it.
So we're in, you know, on a thoroughfare through this neighborhood, many cars going by. And my hazards are on and I'm there holding it and I'm on the phone calling these people for her. And I don't know, 3 or 4 different, like a dozen cars could have gone by, but there were 3 or 4 times that someone stopped, someone not of color, and said, "Are you all right?" And I'd say, "Yeah, she just ends her. Are you all right?"
They don't want to talk to you.
Yeah,
they want, but they're not going to get out of the car either.
Yeah,
this is so funny.
Hanging out of their window,
ma'am, ma'am.
Yeah,
are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to put my car in park or get out, but I need excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
I need the lady to verify that she's all right.
Right. And I
not just one time.
It was, I mean, 3 or 4 different ways. People shouting. I mean, you know, shouting to her about, you know, are you all right? Like, dude, I'm on the phone with.
Yeah. Is he stealing your bike?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna load it in my Scion XB right here.
Is that gentleman with the Scion?
Yeah,
I'm sure
like
they would have said gentleman. I would say gentleman.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
they certainly wouldn't.
But it was, you know. Like I'm helping. Mm-hmm. No one else stopped. Are you all right? Get out of your fucking car and come help her.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm already here.
Yeah. What if I need help?
Yeah.
Did he hit you?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's in that, you know, but to bring it back to music.
I don't know where that voice comes from. That's not
Southern Illinois. But so episode 4 is Ben Kenny of Incubus, formerly of Incubus and the Roots and Super Fudge and
Super Fudge.
Yeah. He talks about like being on the road and like Midwest areas and either people, you know, he'd walk into, they'd rent KFC halls or like VFWs and like he'd walk in and like, hey, you know, where can we park? Is it okay to load in here? And they just kind of stare at him like, okay, maybe I didn't say that out loud. Was that inner monologue? I'm sorry. And he would say these things and it would just take them a second, size him up.
Well, because he's
biracial too.
He's biracial and he presents.
He's light skinned.
Well, and he presents in a very blended way.
Yeah.
That's it's, you know, and Lucius and I have had this conversation because it happens on the gender spectrum too, where before people will talk to you, they will look at you and
try to figure out
where am I going to put you in my brain?
Yeah,
because they're deciding how they want to talk to you.
Exactly.
How nice do I have to be to you?
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I order you about? Like, are you going to be trouble? You know?
Yeah. If I call you boy, is that a problem?
Is that going to be a problem?
In boys' cases,
yeah. Well, yes, it will be a problem. But
it will be but in his case, because especially his beard is kind of like almost like a white guy kind of.
Yeah, right.
It's like straighter or something. And I don't if that's the right word.
I suppose. I mean, I don't.
This stuff is so hard.
We didn't even go into that like with him, so I don't know. I could be off.
Yeah, but exactly this. Yeah. So imagine you though in that same situation.
Yeah, and then just like I wouldn't even get an answer. Like, okay, why don't you come? Hey, drummer friend. Yeah, that's not of color. Come, will you ask? Like, especially like gender stuff too. I played drums for Cave of Swords, and like Senyata and I, like we're talking. Like the engineer came up and was standing there, and he asked me, "All right, so what's your guys like? What are your lines that you need and all this stuff?" I was like, "She's the lead singer. She's the one that," and then he looked at her, and then okay, so what do you need? Like, you talk to her.
It happens at guitar stores like crazy.
Yeah, and,
Lucius and I would work in accessories with a friend of ours, and you know the range of experiences we would all get from the same people. Yeah, the three of us lined up and kind of all being at three different points on the gender range that you're going to get in a Guitar Center. Yeah. That you know, people would. Like my friend Stacy would say, she would say, "Sir, can I help you?" And be like, "Hi," and then he would turn to me, and I was like, "I'm not trying to talk to you."
She said that,
I'm on M4, brother. I am the last line of defense.
I'm on break.
Those two were supposed to be lined out the door. I'm not even trying to make money today.
Yeah, it's like,
what are you talking
the audio
about?
Professional
You let me know if you want to talk about this cabinet of used pedals only.
Yeah.
You need strings. You need to talk to my very capable.
Yeah.
More feminine than me friends. Yeah. Guess what they know about? Yeah. Fucking strings, dude.
The thing that you're asking about.
God, you don't even know. That's why you want to talk to me, because you don't know what strings you want.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't want her to tell you.
Yeah, and I have an opinion, but it's probably informed by what she told me to sell this morning.
Yeah.
So why don't you ask her?
Yeah, in the debriefing room.
There's a spiff going on the Dunlaps right now. Have you tried the Dunlaps? Guess what Stacy knows about?
Yeah.
The Dunlaps. Yeah. Get away from me.
See that shirt?
Sir, I'm still drunk. It's only noon. That was what was going on in those days. That's why I realized those morning meetings were so wild. I think I was still drunk. Those 8 a.m. Saturday staff meetings, I would get squirrely in them because it's hard for me to sit and not draw attention to myself. We had the whole crew all together, and I would just get wild. I'm like, I might still be drunk. And I can say that because this is 12 years ago.
Yeah. But that's the long and short of the series. That, I mean, it dips into really just the Black experience, and then we happen to be musicians, and it dives into there too, and we're underestimated. Like, I would get like, oh man, how long have you been playing rock and roll? Like, since ever.
That's what I mean too, though. The rock and roll space is what is so valuable with the perspective to have a contemporary rock and roll thing. We've really kind of covered like from like, if you include Ken Burns, we've included from 1900 to like 1985 for like the historical perspective of Black music and those voices and what they experienced and their challenges. Yeah. But to see, you know, people that have kept working in the industry since then, and specifically in this space, because there's the headlining band I mentioned the other day that I opened for, lead guitar player was a gentleman of color, and kind of had like a bossy kind of approach. He worked kind of high, and he was like really, really modal on the thing. Yeah. Like this, you know what I mean? This is the motion here.
He knew his modes.
Oh yeah, he was moded up, bro. It was so modal, and I just love that. I love that there's a 21st century archetype for young people of color that want to get into music, and maybe they don't want to be a rapper. Yeah, maybe they don't want to be an R&B singer, or maybe they don't want to be you know, a gospel artist. That you could also do secular music that is challenging and forward moving and expressive and has all those things, and it's just heavier.
That's why I'm here, man. That's what I'm trying to scream.
So important.
That's what I'm trying to say. And well, you know, having to put on a hat too, like make sure I'm smiling. I'll go into places and I'll tie my hair up, like, okay, I don't want to scare the people. I don't want to scare the suburbanites, you know, like just, hey, let's be cool. I'm still, and it may be in my head, but I'm certain that, you know, I'll get the weird looks, you know, and I'm not certain I'll get the weird looks, but I've gotten the weird looks. I think these days the cultural climate is either so polarized that everybody's afraid to talk about it now, or the people that are on what I consider the right side of history are so in tune with it that it's a non-issue. I see your culture, I recognize your culture, and I respect it. We're talking about this thing right here, and I'm not going to treat you otherwise. It's not the I don't see color. No, I want you to see my color. Don't treat me differently because of my melanated tone, but, you know, understand that I didn't come from, I came from the middle of all the things that you know, so I kind of understand that, but I wasn't all the things that you know, so I got picked on for it, you know, so let's just be sensitive to these things and know that I'm a fucking professional. You know, I know what I'm talking about, you know, when I'm talking about music, at least. And don't ask me what my favorite Bob Marley album is. You know, I've never owned a Bob Marley album. Yeah. I can play his songs because I know how to learn music, but I don't know. I know who Peter Tosh is. I know who, you know, there's a few others that, you know, when I'm not smoking or something, but
yeah,
you know, and it's just, I think there are enough people that are here's another thing too. There are enough people that understand these things that are listening. I want those people to help spread this kind of thing to those that might not want to hear it.
Yeah.
Like as a musician, I've been telling I was just recently telling my bands, like, I don't want to, we've been playing to the other musicians for so long because we've been doing this obscure stuff. Like, I don't want to see all these dudes in black t-shirts with their arms folded, you know, and I know that this is the opening band. I know that that's the closing band. I know that the, you know, engineers are, I want to play to those people who think we're up there doing, you know, card tricks and, you know, magic, because they don't understand what's going on. Like, we need to appeal to those that are,
well, because then they're actually enjoying the art that's being created. You remember from summer camp, I would say the orb.
Yeah, and we have to be able to let them in so that there's something palatable, you know. And I remember a friend telling me, he's like, I don't come see your band because I don't get it. I can't dance to it. I don't know what they're singing about. Like, not my band, but, you know, a band that I was in at the time. Yeah. Like, you people I thought would catch on a lot more than it did, but I don't know how that happened, but
well, it's
I couldn't build any momentum.
Know how it happened. Yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about.
For that reason, you know, and I couldn't. It was just like, what do we do with it? You know, like this. Where do we go? Like, who gets it? So
I think it still has legs. Like, I think it'll grow with the series because people would say that.
Yeah,
that means they don't understand many of these issues that you're talking about.
I've always studied artists that are ahead of their time. Like, Jeff Buckley is a legend, but at the time people were just like, oh man, but like 10 years after he was gone, whoosh.
Yeah, and they could catch up.
Yeah, the legacies in the wake, you know, no pun intended, like, people are getting dragged.
Oh, that's awful.
You know? but you know, like,
it's dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
no night swimming, kids.
Right, no night swimming with combat
they
boots
finally
on.
Caught up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
but and Van Gogh never sold a piece of art until he was gone.
Yeah.
You know, nobody recognized him. Don't make me the Van Gogh, y'all.
Yeah.
I want you to catch on to this.
It's just like Dave Chappelle said this about Colin Kaepernick. It'd be like, wouldn't it be nice if instead of killing Jesus, he just got all that money?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or something to that effect, that like, it's like we were talking about before. It's okay if someone's creating something you think is important. It's okay to find a way to support them and validate them. If you're broke, write them a comment. If I go to a local restaurant that I feel like I'm running for office and making something up right now, that's not the truth. But if I go to like a local restaurant and I have a really positive experience and I'm not in a hurry, I'll go out of my way to write them a review on something.
Yeah.
Because I know it gives them a boost that they cannot really buy.
Right.
And it's free to them. Yeah. And then, like we're talking about, these people who may be from a not as cool neighborhood or whatever, if they venture in to where you're working and they want to support something, if somebody has said, hey, this sandwich shop is great, it's locally owned, I had a really positive experience and whatever, if that pushes them over the line, well, that's way more valuable than me just buying one sandwich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same way with artists. I think people will identify that the message that kind of this whole process for you is encompassing is valuable, and there's not tons of it happening.
Yeah.
You know, the Hayes episode is the one I showed to my kids.
Yeah. Oh, bless you.
Sorry. Just because it's so just well produced, and it has so much good information in it.
Yeah.
So that is a perfect leverage point to get people into the more specific and perhaps then a little bit darker, because they're more authentic to the experience of some of the other episodes, and that's necessary. You can't just go from PBS to soft white underbelly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you have to work your way there.
Yeah,
but there's so much value in getting a raw, dark kind of account of what was a dark experience. You know what I mean? In some form of injustice.
Yeah, and apparently, like it just leads to a rabbit hole, man. I mean, my benefactor for the GoFundMe, like he told me, he's like, I'm doing this. I've heard, that it was a really cool idea, and I just, still couldn't fathom it. And someone had said, I don't think there's anything streaming now or in the past so and so years that touches on these subjects. And I'm still like, flabbergasted by that. Like, really? Like, I could have swore this has been going on, But anyway, he said, it's like, I couldn't put it down. I put on the first episode and I went through all 4, back to back. And so it's dawning on me, and that's what keeps pushing me forward to take these steps through the door and really hit people up, that it is good, man. This is something that
binge worthy.
Yeah. And it came from the heart, which makes me so happy that it's something that's of my experience, that, there are enough people relating to it, enough people that want to learn about it, enough people that have been affected or didn't know that they maybe had been affecting someone by it. And, I really hope for all of that. And I hope that, this tells young me, like, dude, you can do it. There's now enough of it out there to where it's not going to be such a shock that we talked about Corey Glover and Living Color. Whoa, that's the whole band is black, like I want it to be, to get to a point where we're so normalized that, there are many, many people of color that don't have to be African, or the whole, that there are, whole black bands, the band Death, they're still touring,
I love them.
Yeah, they're amazing. And, that there's enough.
No, that's fine.
But there's just enough exposure so that kid sees that you don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to play basketball. If you want to, great, that's fine. But you can, put on that guitar, pick up those drumsticks, and learn to, apply vocal fry and scream or whatever you're feeling that you want to be able to do. And it's okay to do it, and no one's going to tell you, ask you why are you playing that white boy music, or why, without forgetting or knowing that Chuck Berry and Rosetta Tharpe and Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah, there's still so many of these figures that we're just now starting to get content about too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's like when I was teaching this unit I did about the history of some of the American music, that B.B. King, easy to find stuff about.
Right.
Because John Lee Hooker
was the anomaly. Yeah.
John Lee Hooker. Infinitely less content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then he has so much more content produced about him in an autobiographical way than the next guy down. You know what I mean?
Right.
And because the marketplace in the mainstream was just, it didn't have the same bandwidth for artists of color.
Yeah.
Certainly not male artists of color. One of my favorite memories of like my favorite form of entertainment when I was a young person was like VH1 Classic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
Loved
so
it.
that kind of has extended it to YouTube. As early days of YouTube, I wanted to find old interviews with artists that I like. One person I love is Terrence Trent D'Arby.
Dude, sign your name across my heart.
There's so many good ones.
Dude.
There's so many good ones.
He was our James Brown, like of that generation, like of our age group,
He
Like
was
his
on the
moves and stuff.
Arsenio Hall show when
Yeah.
his third album came out, and it was a really great interview. And one of the things they talk about is that Terrence Trent D'Arby was aggravated that to be at the top level of music at the time as a black male artist, you had to either be asexual like Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
or presenting as like bisexual, as that was his words, as Prince was presenting.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned those two by name.
Yeah. Or a Prince is like, David Bowie was androgynous, but it's Prince is.
But Terrence felt the industry was telling him, you can't be a solo adult sexual icon as just a heterosexual black man.
Yeah.
And
you were either
which I'm sure the
Samuel.
industry was telling him, probably in less polite terms than that.
Yeah.
And this would have been the late 80s.
Yeah.
That we're talking about. And it's just such a because even with men in the mainstream, I'm thinking about some of the biggest black male artists you'll see right now. The attire isn't necessarily masculine.
Yeah.
And that like, even if you're wearing like a giant t-shirt and giant pants or something, like I'm thinking some, rappers you might see or whatever, that's not like a masculine, like, strong, like combat ready look. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like 50 Cent was like, no, I'm going to show them my muscles and my tattoos, and then I'll wear
Kevlar.
just the vest over just my vital organs because I want you to see my masculinity and my blackness.
Yeah.
And even for me at the time, I remember in the audience thinking, oh, that's actually brave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's people that don't want to see that, and there's people that have been suppressing that for 100 years.
Oh, clutch the pearls.
Even when you think about Louis Armstrong would wear a 3-piece double-breasted suit.
Right. Yeah.
You can't see his body at all. He's an object.
Yeah. Let's cover as much of this undesirable vision that, people don't want to see and people aren't going to certainly buy,
Or just that they don't, people do this, they don't want to let their kids see it.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to see a black guy with his muscles and his tattoos with a bulletproof vest.
Yeah.
And, or even just the natural body of a person of color is for some reason, something about that is taboo in mainstream.
Hanging from a tree.
I didn't want to say it.
Well, what sprung to mind, not about that, but like I was thinking, it's like, okay, Elvis, when he did his hip thing, and so that was him, and I just want to believe that it's like, okay, he's dancing like, the black folk did in the juke joints, and they didn't want to see integration. They didn't want to see him like, oh, he's dancing like the Negroes. And so this is bad. And it only, just like, the first parental advisory sticker on, NWA or whatever, like that, they made a multi-platinum selling artist, because you told people not to. So I it doesn't work such that way anymore. Like shock value now with this fucking former president, like shock value is out the fucking window.
Yeah.
Because this dude is going for it.
It's a nightmare.
It's an absolute nightmare. So
It's
nothing
just sad.
shocking. That's a great album, by the way. Nothing shocking. Jane's Addiction. But we're in idiot. I make the joke like, Pink Floyd didn't tell us, like the Pink Floyd put out an album. They didn't tell us we were living in it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's a similar thing. Like, you think about how you have to imagine other artists feel like that too, that they're creating something that hopefully is going to have some life beyond them. Yeah. So maybe it's going to teach somebody something, even if they're not ready to learn it yet.
Yeah.
And so 1984 would have been that way.
Yeah.
The Wall.
Yep. And now
like we're
Sellout
talking
series.
about, but maybe, we talk about it with, is Hollywood or whatever preparing us for contact with aliens, for example?
Yeah.
For, and they've been, how delicate, how groundbreaking they say Sidney Poitier was as an actor in Hollywood because of what he did.
Yeah.
I can't picture him outside of, again, like we're talking about, really properly dressed up and highly buttoned and whatnot, even in, you know.
You got to do it, man. Just this
but it's because it takes that long to grow that bandwidth in that market space. Because you don't want to like force yourself on people in a way that like you have to look at just me all the time.
Yeah.
But you want to tell people, no, it's okay for you to appreciate my authentic self.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, and we can exchange that mutually. That's one thing I learned at that church I was mentioning earlier, that when I was a kid, that everything in the media about racial issues was about tolerance.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, that tolerance is not sufficient.
Yeah, tolerance is like you tolerating a screaming child.
Tolerating means we allow it to exist.
Right.
What we're saying is we need to be seeking mutual respect and appreciation, not just tolerating
acceptance.
But appreciating and in its authentic form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If somebody says your child shouldn't be like that, you're going to argue with that person. Because you know, this is America, and everyone is actually supposed to be free to be their authentic self.
How do you know what my child should be like? You know, my child is my child, and
so then remember,
they have their own brain. They're gonna do
that is somebody's baby that you're feeling that about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And if you really value them as a person, you're going to appreciate their authenticity and what you can learn from it.
Right.
And how you can support it.
What you don't know about it is what's giving you the problem. You know, what you don't understand about it is why you're so upset that it's there. And if there are enough people that were willing to open themselves up and learn and listen to what someone's story is, like this kid might be on the spectrum and you don't know why can't I get this? Why can't I get Jimmy or Jenny to do this? Because, well, they maybe don't understand that there are consequences for this kind of thing. And, why is this? I don't want this. I want this black dude with my daughter or something like that. It's like, well, okay, how do you I'm
what are you assuming is different?
Gentle soul, what you may have encountered in your teenage days. Who knows how that situation got kicked off? You might have said something smart and somebody just smacked the shit out of you.
Right.
You know, so now all of these people are just like this person.
Yeah.
You know, and what you don't know is that I've been in 3 fights in my life. I'm not sure if I won. I don't think anybody won. Broke my hand on one kid's face, you know, like, and that was dumb. Like, oh, I walked away big and bad. And then my hand is swelled.
Messed up. You can't play guitar.
Yeah,
you're in the middle of your Steve I regiment.
It was stupid. And, you know, but what we don't know about one another is probably the thing that's given us. It's like, you don't understand it. That's why it's given you this issue. Why don't you just try to learn something about it? And maybe you'll get why, I have a deficiency in my life. And now that I understand that this is how they have to operate because that's the way their brain works, or that's the way this process needs to play out, I can't control it. I need to let it play out. Here's the product of this person's, intellect and thought process. So that's how they have to operate to give me this thing that I guess I appreciate, So seeing someone's ADHD, seeing someone's color, seeing someone, not that those are the same thing, but seeing a true person and into who they are is where we need to be. And
it's what we've been asking for the whole time.
What we've been asking for the whole time, dude. Like,
which is why we're still asking for it.
Yeah, just understand me, man. Just get it. Just talk to me.
Or just try to give me the opportunity. Yeah. Don't assume.
That
you know much of anything about me, especially with that. There's not any objective evidence.
Yeah, you could be 100% wrong.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's stick to the evidence. My therapist tells me that in my personal life all the time.
Yeah.
Don't speculate on things you don't have objective evidence of.
Yeah.
I'm assuming I'm going to get fired based on what?
Yeah.
Did you get written up? No. Yeah. Did you get? Did someone say you're getting fired? No.
No. Yeah.
Did anyone even say they were mad at you? No.
Right. It's just me having these conversations in my head.
That I should be because
I'd fire me
because I'm a sinner and I'm outside of the light of God. We are way over on time. I have another thing lined up.
So this is part 2 and 3.
This is part 2, and then we're going to have to do a part 3. No, I think because the project again is alive and it's going to continue to develop.
Yeah.
And I would certainly want to support and traffic people to the GoFundMe, but I also want to be around for the ride and see what more we get. I'm probably going to binge the 4 episodes of season 1 tonight while I put all this in my computer.
Nice.
So
awesome.
I have 3 computers set up, and one of them really is just something for me to watch while I'm playing with the other 2.
Perfect.
And so You People Music on YouTube, 3220 Productions on Instagram. There's a GoFundMe there to be a part of the future of this series. They called me a sellout, being black in the white rock and roll industry. My guest has been Chan Maurice Evans of You People. We could do this all day.
Yeah.
But
dude,
I have been sitting here making piss this whole time. I need a hard break. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye. Woo! Awesome.
That's show business.